So, just to continue the series of talks I've been doing about cases from the 1990s, these are cases that involved people appearing in court, in various courts during the 1990s. I've altered names and some of the details to disguise all the different people involved. But they're based on real cases that occurred in the 1990s, and there's a whole selection of them. So basically these people had to attend for interview with me, and I had to prepare a pre-sentence report to assist the court decide what would be the best sentence in each case. Now, 1990s, quite some time ago. I kept a diary at the time, but reflecting back, of course, sometimes with hindsight, my opinion might change a bit on what I should recommend. And today I've got a case a bit like that, where all these years later, I'm wondering if I did actually make the right proposal to court, but we'll talk through that. Quite an interesting case today. It involves harassment. And what happened was there was a breakup in a relationship. The defendant was 18 years old and the victim was 20 years old. She ended the relationship with the 18-year-old man, I should call him Martin, and he was really upset about it. And various things happened as well following the breakup, in that they used to work together in a large retail outlet, we'll say a supermarket, and he got dismissed for some, I don't know exactly why he got dismissed, and I think I would like to know a bit more about that, looking back on the case. He got dismissed from his job as a result of her informing the company about something he'd done. And he also got banned, him and his friends got banned from a particular public house that they used to go to with her. And apparently the landlord was quite upset by some of his behaviour. So it would appear that more's been going on than what had been explained in the Crown prosecution papers. And sometimes you only get a partial story. So we've got the victim's account. So what this lad did was, this was before the days of the internet, back in the 1990s, but you've all heard of sexting and things like that, where people are posting videos without permission, or photographs without permission, and it's quite a terrible offence. So this is a sort of precursor. This offence, what happened was, this young lad had explicit photos of his former girlfriend, and he printed them all off on A4 paper, and him and his mate posted them up in the pub that he'd been banned from, put them in the gents' loo and places like that, and posted them up around the staff room and around parts of the store where they used to work together. And, you know, these were private photos that he did this without permission. And immediately this, you know, it's very vicious and nasty behaviour to do that, and quite inappropriate. For me as well, it kind of sheds light on people's attitudes sometimes, and this has worried me, because with the sexting, for example, is it tends to show that people have got an inappropriate attitude towards women at times, that they're treating women, instead of treating them as people, they're treating them as sex objects. And for me, that's rather kind of sad and distasteful. And I don't really see the point of these images. You know, what is the point of it? What is more important is the relationship between two, that it should be mutually respectful, it should be loving, kind and supportive, and purely images, you know, for me, it's a no-no. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of sexting going on amongst young people at school age, and to distribute pictures of underage people is against the law, you know, and there have been cases of schoolboys circulating pictures of girlfriends around school, you know, naked photos or whatever. And it's just awful. And I would encourage people not to engage in this sort of thing. So the victim asserted that he had threatened to do this very thing if he ended the relationship, if she ended the relationship with him. And he said that he was glad the relationship was over because he thought it was a boring and depressing relationship, and that he was relieved it was all over. Clearly, the bloke's not being truthful, and clearly he was very upset. Now, I did phone up the young gentleman's mum, and she confirmed that he was indeed very upset over the breakup of the relationship. She felt that the girl being 2 years older than him was a bit of a problem, that he was out of his depth with her, and she was a bit trying to blame the victim, I think, rather than her son. But for me, you know, what happened really was a sort of spur of the moment prank, he said, the defendant, but that got out of hand. But I think that it was quite worrying. So what kind of happens really often with these court cases, and it happened in this case, is that there's a huge delay between the offence happening and the matter appearing in court. And very often it's because the criminal justice system's creaking, it's insufficiently funded, and so cases are appearing at court very much later than when the offence has occurred. So in this case, a lot of things happened after the offence had occurred. And in some ways, it can be a good thing. So what had happened to this young man was he went to a grammar school and he did really well. He got 8 O-levels. You know, he got 8 O-levels, and then he went on to another school, a college, where they did A-levels, and he was in a relationship with this girl, and I think he lost his focus on his studying, and he said he dropped out after several months because he thought the journey to college was too difficult, and that he thought he'd chosen the wrong subject. So he completely dropped out, and the victim helped him get a job with her at her supermarket where she worked. Now, if I was a parent, I'd be worried, wouldn't you, with this sort of thing happening? The other thing that had happened was that worries me as well, is that his behaviour was getting a bit out of control, in that he had a previous conviction for drink driving, age 17. So he's breaking boundaries and breaking the law, you know, 17. And all this is going on. He's stopping college, driving with excess alcohol. And he also had 2 convictions for getting into fights, 2 cautions rather, for getting into fights at nightclubs. And he had a caution also for using somebody else's driving licence to get into a nightclub. So he's sort of, you know, trying to be older than what he really was, age 16, 17. And all this kind of breaking the law was worrying me. And what really worried me was what were his attitudes to women, you know? So in doing the interview, I kind of said to him, look, you can't treat women like this. This is out of order. And I explained how relationships, and you can't, you know, women are not, that it's more important, the person's more important, and the relationship's more important than treating a person as a sex object. And I challenged any sort of signs of misogyny there. I also said to him, look, the law gives people a chance between 16 and 18, but as soon as you're 18, which you are now, you're an adult. And you cannot, the law will not tolerate you carrying on behaving like this. And I kind of read in the riot act, you know. But since committing the offence and the court hearing, there's been a lot of positive change in that he'd chosen another college and set of A levels, and he was studying hard and doing well at college. He'd found himself another girlfriend, and apparently the relationship was positive and he seemed to be getting on well. So, and his attitude to the offence seemed better. He seemed to take on board that he's now got to be adult and that he can't carry on offending. So this appeared genuine, and I was quite pleased that his life now seemed to be much more on track. And you know, and the mother confirmed that the relationship with a new girlfriend seemed fine. He seemed much more sensible. He wasn't going out clubbing and all this sort of thing, that he was sort of going to the cinema and or staying at home, you know. So on the basis of that, I thought, well, this guy doesn't need probation. I'm going to propose community service. And I'm hoping that the messages that I've told him in the report interview have hit home. But all these years later, I'm kind of thinking, oh, what really were his attitudes to women? Was his behaviour really getting under control? Did he need some sort of probation supervision and so on? So it's difficult, isn't it? But the fact that I think, you know, he got his life back on track, he was now doing A levels again, I was pleased about that, and that quite a lot of time had elapsed since the offence and he hadn't bothered the victim anymore, and it seems finished with. So on the basis of that, I thought community service was the best option. If he didn't do it, you know, he'd be brought back to court and he would be threatened with more hours or doing a short custodial or something if he didn't watch himself. But for sure, it was a serious offence, so community service is appropriate, and the court went with it. So anyway, do share your comments, but looking back on it, I'm kind of wondering whether a bit of probation supervision might have been helpful to him as well, you know, just to encourage him, keep going in a positive direction. So there we are. Anyway, all the very best, and thank you for looking in on my videos, and do please subscribe to my channel. I'll be really grateful. And have a lovely day now, and all the very, very best to you. Bye-bye.